I'm just gonna wait here for a while. Is that cool? Hello and welcome to another episode of Black Man Beyond. My name is Marc Bernardin. I will be your solo host on tonight's voyage into the unknown, and tonight's wonderful gallivant into the galaxy of geekness. I don't know what I'm doing, boys and girls. It's been a while. But hey, how are you? Hey, oh, hey. Um, it has been, as I said, a couple of weeks since Ed Brubaker. Has it been a couple of weeks? It feels like a couple of weeks, maybe. I don't know. Time is dilating in the weirdest possible ways. Because I've been doing shit. You guys, I've been doing shit. But yes, we talked to Ed Brubaker, who was on the podcast. I have a lovely deep dive into his writing habits and his writing style and the stuff he works on and how he does the things that he does. We talked to Malcolm Barrett back at the Cantina for a freewheeling, a somewhat insane chat, which are my favorite kind of chats with guests to this year about fat man, black man space. But today we have a lot to talk. We have some shit that I have seen, namely, I'm caught up on Andor. I've seen Black Adam. JC and I will talk about the Rings of Power and the Hot D season finales. I can talk a little bit about what it was like to be on the purple carpet of Wakanda Forever. And then we have a bunch of news to talk about. We'll hit Q&A at the very end of it. But before we go very much deeper into tonight's full to bursting, ripping at the seams, heaving bosom of an episode, we gotta pay some bills. We've got some ads to read, or I have some ads to read, which means we'll be out of here pretty well. We are going to kick off our double ad bonanza with a word or two from our good folks at native.deo.com. When it comes to personal hygiene, who has time to read that long list of ingredients on the back of the bottle? Some ingredients I can't even pronounce. And if you're like me and care about what goes on your body, it is time to try Native personal care products, just like I did. Every Native product is thoughtfully formulated to keep you feeling and smelling fresh all day long. You know Native for their aluminum-free deodorant. Native keeps their ingredients list bare naked with ingredients that you can understand, like coconut oil, shea butter, and baking soda. Native deodorant checks a lot of boxes: 72-hour odor protection, naturally derived ingredients, and a smooth, residue-free application. Native also offers a variety of scents with new and limited edition scents being released all the time, like warm cider and cinnamon, cashmere and rain, yeah, toasted marshmallow, what, and vanilla, wildwood and cardamom, hey mom, yo, want to smell spicy or woodsy, clean and fresh? Native has a scent option for everyone. And now's the time to make the switch from antiperspirant to Native. And when you visit their site, you can discover all their fresh scents, maybe even try out one of their body washes while you're at it. So smell fresh and smell clean, and smell fresh and clean all day long with Native. Get 20% off your first order by going to native.deo.com/fatman or use the promo code FATMAN at checkout. That's native.deo.com/fatman or use the promo code FATMAN at checkout for 20% off your first order. And we thank the good folks at Native for making us smell so fresh, so clean. All right, so what should we get into? What should we do? I think, let me talk very quickly about Black Adam, which I did see opening weekend. And, you know, it is certainly a movie. It is doing well enough at the box office. It's made something like $120 million worldwide in 10 days of release. And The Rock definitely fills out a superhero suit. Dwayne Johnson. I'm not sure if I was supposed to use his confirmation name. But listen, I mean, if you guys have seen the movie, you know what the movie is by now. I'm not. I don't think pulling the rug out from anybody. I don't think I'm puncturing any long-held balloons about what it is. It's a bit of a mess. And I think the two things that exemplified this to me the most were, I don't know at any point in that movie what Black Adam wants. I don't know why he's doing any of the things he's doing. He comes out of, you know, his millennia old prison and he just starts crunching things. We don't know why he goes into the city. We know why he kills the people who were shooting at him. That I get, but why he's in Kandak, what he expects to get out of Kandak, why he helps out this family, why he's taking a shine to this kid. Um, because they make it a mystery that he had a son and a wife, even though anybody who's seen the trailers know that's why he turned into Black Adam. Um, what is it about this family that makes him do anything? Why does he want to punch the Justice Society so badly, and why did the Justice Society want to punch him so bad? That was sort of my other problem, in that I don't know who the Justice Society is. I mean, I know, we know, but why are they this weird international jurisdictionary force, completely hell bent on dealing with Black Adam, when there's nothing but crime in this place they could have cleared up anytime they wanted to? There's a term, I'll call it a euphemism, that's used when writing sitcoms, because most sitcom episodes are somebody's acting stupid and everybody needs to recover from it, deal with it, whatever you call it. It's called the idiot ball. Who's carrying the idiot ball this week? And it seemed as if Carter Hall was carrying the idiot ball more often than not, because it's with a conversation they could stop having to beat each other up. But nobody's going to have the conversation. Instead, let's start punching, which doesn't make any sense any of the times that they do it. There's an intergang that disappears halfway through the movie, is a threat, and then isn't at all. There's a bad guy who wants a thing to get killed so that he can somehow find power in death, but then again, he probably could have been killed anytime he wanted to be. It's fine if you like that kind of thing. I traditionally do like that kind of thing, so it's not all that fun. But hey, it's doing well enough at the box office. There will be more Black Adams to come. I would not be spoiling anything to say that Henry Cavill does show up as Superman about midway through the credits. And I kept on hoping that would happen as the third act of the movie, which it presently doesn't really have one. And so because now you're teasing me a thing that I'm not going to get for years and years and years, and I don't even know what the shape of it is going to be. As opposed to, and this is not a Marvel and DC comparison, but when you tease the Avengers, you're not teasing me conflict, you're teasing me plot, which is fine. What this movie does is it teases me conflict that we're never going to get resolved, or if we do, it's not going to be for a long, long while to come. And so, excuse me, that's kind of where I was like, sure, okay, I guess I'll do that. But yeah, I had a good enough time at it. There's some of those sequences are fun, but then there's just the things that they just manifestly decided they didn't want to make a movie about. Namely, there's a guy who was born in 6000 BC who wakes up and speaks perfect English, is never once flummoxed at all by the modern world, and just doesn't believe in doors, even though they 100% had doors, 6000 BC. But hey, I hope you dug it. If you dug it, you're going to get more if you did. And I guess dovetailing on the Black Adam of it all, one of the big news events that we didn't get to cover was that James Gunn is now with Peter Safran going to be heading up DC Studios, which, is kind of great, because I think that one of the things that DC has needed is they needed a creator to help shepherd their universe, and not just a creator, but a creator with distance, because Jeff Johns was also doing either a job like this or this specific job for a while, and Jeff Johns is a very nice dude, incredibly talented writer, but I always got the feeling that he was so close to this material, that he was deeply invested in it half the time, because he wrote these characters on the page. And I think that what a position like this requires is knowledge, but also a ability to distance yourself from that knowledge, and to make the changes one needs to make in order for it to sort of live and breathe as movies, and not just as translations from the page. And so to have somebody like James Gunn be that person, or at least one of those people, is I think it's a pretty good idea. I think it's a pretty good idea, because you want a creator, you want somebody who makes this stuff to do this stuff. I do not envy him the tasks set before him, as we talked before about when Dan Lin was up for this job. He got to produce the Lego movies because it's a big lift. It's, you know, what do you do with the things you inherited? How much do you keep? How much do you scuttle? You know, you've already got a couple of things in motion that you probably can't do much to alter. Namely, there's going to be Batman stuff, you know, from the Matt Reeves camp. There's going to be a Penguin TV show, which we'll talk about later. There's a Batman 2. There's, you know, all kinds of stuff that is kind of interwoven into that version of Batman. And then there's a Joker sequel, and then there's a Harley Quinn show, and then there's probably a Black Adam 2, and whatever they're doing with the 9 different Supermen that they've decided to begin to make into movies. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you know, how you go about refurbishing a mansion that still has all the furniture in it that some people still seem to like, but doesn't entirely work as one thing. Um, you know, how hard do you lean into the multiverse that DC has had since, you know, almost its inception? And how much do you try to unify and make it a singular version of what these stories could be? I don't have an answer to that. But I think that James Gunn can get on the phone, can get on a Zoom, can get in a room with the people who can help him figure that out. So it's encouraging to me. It's a good sign. Um, what else? Black Adam, James Gunn, Wakanda Forever. So I had been on the internet, as I'm wont to do, about a month ago, lamenting the fact that I was going to have to do the heavy lifter trying to con somebody into inviting me to the Wakanda Forever thing. Um, the conning didn't require that much. Like, I didn't have to put up any physical collateral. I didn't have to promise a firstborn child. I didn't have to do any of that stuff to score to find a way to be somebody's plus one. Because I still do have some friends in that world, and they one of them was kind enough to reach out and invite me along. It was a wonderful night, a very celebratory night, and by celebratory I don't always mean like rah rah let's cheer, because, and I'm not going to spoil anything by saying this because I think it's evident from all of the trailers. This movie is a wake. This movie is a let us process the loss of both Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa. Um, and the movie very much engages with that as a real thing. And so the night was very much kind of in this feeling of, you know, not funereal because it wasn't grim, but it was celebratory of a life. Uh, Whereas the first premiere, you know, back in 2018 was a party. You know, it was a coronation in lots of different ways. You know, it was a coronation of Chadwick as T'Challa. It was a coronation of Ryan Coogler as a filmmaker who can achieve at the highest levels of Marvel at, you know, rolling the dice and making a movie this triumphantly black. It was a celebration of sort of Black Hollywood and Black, you know, elitism and the Black elite in Hollywood and pop culture everywhere. So there was definitely a bouncier feeling to that first one, where this was a little bit more solid. Um, but it is so great to see. It's so great to be back out and in the world again. It's so great to sit in that house in the Dolby Theater, um, and laugh with people about a movie like this, cry with people about a movie like this. And there's 3 or 4 times for sure when they do not pull punches in going for the emotional heft of it all. Um, but I think that's all I'll say about that night. And that's all I'll say about the movie, because we still do have at this point 10 days, as of today, November 1st, for anybody else to see it. And I will not be the person to spoil anything about this movie, other than to say um, it is as emotionally charged a movie that I've seen in a long time. And that charge comes from both within the drama and from everything surrounding it. Um, so, so yeah, Wakanda Forever, Black Adam, uh, James Gunn, and I think maybe it might be time for Banff Man to join me to talk about a couple of other things in this universe.
Bamf.
Oh, there he is, the
I
man, the myth, the legend.
Before we dig in, are you a Halloween person?
Not especially.
So
I'm not really like a decorating the house guy. I was when the kids were younger, but now that they're all like old people, they don't care. And if I get invited to a party, I will do a thing. But if I don't, I'm perfectly happy to sit at home and watch scary movies all by myself.
did so have you seen what the celebrities were doing for Halloween?
Oh.
Particularly, I pulled five celebrity
Mm.
Halloween costumes
Ooh, you have a
that
slideshow?
we can chat about. Uh, the first, and they're all wonderfully nerdy and on brand for us.
Mm.
The first I'll put up is Marge Simpson.
Oh my.
Let's see if you're looking at it. Can you guess who that is?
Is that I want to say it's the woman from the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
You were looking at Lizzo.
That is Lizzo in
Li-
yellow face.
Lizzo went as Marge Simpson for Halloween and absolutely crushed it.
That is a no fucking around costume right there.
My next, one of my favorites. Let's see if you can guess who this is.
Oh yeah, that's John Boyega. It's like Easy E.
John Boyega as Easy E. I thought was wonderful.
It's the Jerry curl that does it. Like,
This one, I'm kind of going in order. I felt like this next one is like these were the top five, so we're at number three right now.
mm.
Can you guess who was Mystique?
Yes, I remember this story that Kim Kardashian went to a Halloween party where nobody else was in costume but her.
And
But killed it.
I thought yeah, that's pretty good. Then the last two, I'm gonna give number two to the Fifth Element for one reason. Did you see this?
I did. Janelle Monáe as the diva of Floston Paradise.
Crushing. That by far is the best costume.
And
But
also like looks the hardest to get into.
it looks like you get that gets poured onto you.
Oh man.
And then did you see this story? This story was absolutely insane. Our Joker, our Heath Ledger Joker, do you know who that is?
Oh no, I
That
don't.
that is Diddy. P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs. Here's the thing. He had a flamethrower and a fake Tommy gun, and it looked like he was walking up and down Ventura Boulevard in the valley. And all of his real life, like, people that follow him around everywhere were dressed as clowns. And so he was doing, like, performance art on Halloween. And I guess
Wow.
he got into a fight, or almost came to blows, with Michael J. Ferguson, who's in the Power show. Like, there's TMZ video of Diddy and him, like, in each other's face because he didn't know who it was. Anyway, I
That's
so I wanted to point those out because those I thought they brought it.
they were strong. I mean, that's I suppose if you have A, money, and B, time, and of course C, desire, then you can kind of make almost anything come true if you want to. I have none of those three.
Yeah, I put on a floppy hat with a net around it, and Jen hot glued bees to it, and I went as a beekeeper because Jocelyn went as a little bee.
Oh, that's so cute.
So, but yeah, I all of those costumes look like way well. I mean, I couldn't do Easy E, but like that's about the level of effort I think I would put into a costume.
Right. Like I got a hat, sunglasses, a little Jerry curl wig, and some black gear. Like finding the LA Raiders, gear is probably the hardest part. But
People in
yes.
chat criticizing my hair again. Thanks, I killed giants. Here's the secret. Uh, this hair is 3 days old. I have headphones on, so it's still sticking up this much after sleeping on it for 3 days. So
That's
uh,
impressive.
I didn't do my hair for you, Mark, and I didn't do my hair for the people of Black Man Beyond. I apologize. I'll try harder next time.
That's all right. Neither of us did our hair for tonight's show, so I think we're okay.
Sorry,
So
you were going somewhere.
I was going some finales we can talk about, even before we get to the new thing. But it has been long enough that I may or may not have forgotten the specifics of one of these finales. But Rings of Power and House of the Dragon. Do you have feelings?
I
How do you
do.
feel they ended their freshman year?
I turned on both of them. Or I flipped on both of them. In that I started out really enjoying Rings of Power, and by the finale I had kind of felt what's the nice way to say, spoken down to? Meaning, am I to believe, if first off, if I'm watching Rings of Power, I have some basis in Tolkien. Am I to believe that Isildur is dead for 3 hours? Do you really expect me to buy into that con? And his whole arc in the show, right? Like writing 101 is, where does the person end up? And where does your hero end up? And put him as far away from there as possible to begin. So if Isildur is the guy who fails, he is the definition of the strength of men failing and cannot throw the ring into Mount Doom. Why do you make him a fuck up from page 1? Because then when he doesn't throw the ring in, you're like, oh, of course he doesn't throw the ring in. He's been a dipshit for the last 5 seasons. Right? He should have been captain of the guard, Johnny on the spot, Steve Rogers level good. And then each season you give him you get a little insight into his character flaw, so that when he doesn't throw the ring in at season 5 or whatever it's going to be, which, by the way, spoilers for Lord of the Rings that came out 80 years ago. When he doesn't throw it in, you're surprised by it. You're like, he's Captain America. How come he can't do the thing? And then you think back and you're like, oh, I saw all the cracks. I don't buy it. Mordor, the reveal of Mordor being done by like a Fiverr level graphic on screen. Do you remember that? Where it's like the Southlands, flame up, Mordor, with like the Arial or Times New Roman font. Like, come on. And I'll tell you what the biggest... I loved Durin and Elrond throughout. But for the most expensive TV show of all time, you think you could have set it in the mines or the Great Hall, where, we saw all of that stuff in Peter Jackson's movies. And then you set every conversation, save for one, at his dining room table. Come on.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Isildur stuff. Although he is such like a third, fourth tier character in the show that always surprised me when they came around to focusing any story on him, because this season didn't seem to be about him at all. But then I was like, wait, you cannot expect me to believe that he's dead. If I know anything about this at all, I know that he's not dead. And if I don't know anything about this, why do I care that this guy that's in like 5 scenes in the show has died? You're just not invested in him at all. And so the weirdness of both of those things happening was kind of odd. Yeah, I mean, I dug the, hey, they showed us the creation of Mordor. That's cool. But yeah, the weird, like, you know, what the fuck?
It's
Like,
like it was like
like,
an MTV show or something, but
yeah,
like
yeah,
worse.
but worse. I dug the Sauron reveal. I mean, I thought they did that actually very, very nicely. Um, that like, how could it possibly be this guy? Except then they show you all the ways that it totally is that guy. Like the hiding in plain sight of the bad guy, I thought was pretty well done. Although I don't know how that dovetails with actual canon, but I also don't care to find out because I'm just not that deep of a Tolkien nerd.
What about
Um,
ethereal Galadriel, the daughter of the shining light of the stars, who's just like, you know what? I'm not going to tell anybody that we just made a bunch of powerful rings with the guy I've been chasing around the Middle Earth for 2,000 years. I was like Peter Jackson built, and I know I keep comparing it to these movies that are timeless. Peter Jackson built a special lighting rig to light Kate Blanchett so she looks like a goddess on Earth. Uh,
mhm.
they didn't. I mean, they didn't even like do the woman's roots every week on Rings of Power, and like Rings of Power season one cost more than one of Peter Jackson's movies. Like it just, I don't know what I don't know. I
Yeah,
I don't know. They did you hear they've paused? They haven't started shooting season two yet. They've paused.
I didn't hear that. I mean, I knew they moved from New Zealand to the UK. Um, and I wonder if some of that has to do with it, but which also seems like a weird choice, other than maybe there's a bunch of people that didn't want to be away from their families for that long. Like, guys, I have to go home. I'm not going to spend the next 8 years in New Zealand. but but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. And so you said that you swapped your positions. So how did you feel by the end of the first season of Hot D, House of the
I
Dragon?
I got into it in that uh House of the Dragon is essentially nighttime soap opera, right? Like that's what we're watching. And they just made it really nighttime soap opera-y. Like Rhaenyra lost her father, lost her baby, and lost her second born in like 24 hours. Like that's like a soap opera. That's like the height of like a adult CW level like schlocky thing, and I'm here for it. And then giant dragons on top of it, and I don't know what the last one we talked about was, but like you reveal that Damon is actually like he earns his space back, and then he grabs her by the throat. I think it's just fun. I think it's just fun now. People dying, dragons eating people. It's
Yeah.
just fun now.
I think these last two episodes were for me probably the best of the bunch, and yet they still like there's these stretches in them when I don't understand why people are doing what they're doing. Um, like even though um, what's her name, Rhaenys, the queen that never was, explains this wasn't my war to start. Why? Like she had a chance to end everything in this to strangle that particular baby in the crib when she shows up at the coronation with a dragon and then just flies away. Like it's and some of that is the scene, like it's why you set the scene the way you set it. If you didn't want her to do that, and I understand it because then the show's over, then have her steal the dragon from the dragon cave that doesn't actually have to come up into the and force a sunroof into this building and kill a bunch of commoners in the process. Like you're forcing that confrontation to then not have it be a confrontation. So then why are we in this scene at all? Like I intellectually understand why Rhaenyra is bereft over the death of her second born son. Um, but I have no idea who that child was. Like I knew it's her kid, but like it's the fifth actor to play that character,
Yeah.
and like I don't have a sense of who he is at all. So when she says, "You're the most like me," I'm like, really? Because I don't even know your name. Are you Jace or are you Luke? Like which one of these kids from 90210 are you this week? Because I couldn't tell you. Um, and I also didn't understand because in we have had some select um, interactions with dragons over the course of our Game of Thrones careers as viewers, mostly in the TV show, but also again here. And this is the first time they've ever told us, oh, by the way, dragons don't always do what you tell them to do. Like literally every other time somebody says a word, the dragon blows smoke. We want to rain fire on this thing, we can do it. We want to attack that ship, we can do it. We want to fly low under the radar, we can do it. We can fight another ice dragon. We like everything we've ever told a dragon to do, they've done, like obedient pets, except for this one time where two dragons ignore everything that the people tell them for reasons that don't make any sense. Then now start a war. And like, and if that's gonna be where you hinge the entirety of a show, then I need just a little bit more consistency in what I've come to know as a viewer about how these forces operate.
Uh,
You
I
know,
agree with everything you said. I think that my expectations for House of the Dragon are significantly lower than what they are for building a backstory to the best-selling book in the history of Amazon, which is The Lord of the Rings. Perhaps that's
yeah,
why.
yeah. No, I get it. I mean, they're both aiming for a different depth. I'm not sure either one hits that depth. Um, to steal liberally from Harry Stamper in Armageddon. Um, we can hit the depth. Like, trust me, my guys can hit that depth. We hit the depth right in the but like I just because it didn't feel as if Rings of Power was trying to be deep, it didn't bother me that it wasn't. Whereas House of the Dragon always felt like it was just trying to be the most serious thing in the world, um, and proceeded as if I was emotionally invested in it, even if they never did quite enough to get me there. Um, Even though like every scene in and of itself is a well done scene, like all of the performances are good, even the writings within those scenes are good, like the scene work is strong, but it just maybe it's a side effect of the time jumps. Maybe it's a side effect of all of the recastings. But um, I'm not entirely sure you couldn't have just started this show like 4 or 5 episodes in, when everybody is the age they're supposed to be, and then sort of live deeper in that part of the story. Um,
Yeah.
but that is the height of armchair quarterbacking or armchair show running. And so all I'll say is, I'll tune in for next year, because of course I will. But I was not blown away by this first season of either one of those shows.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, part of House of the Dragon for me also is that Jen and I watch it together.
Mhm.
So it's like our one little thing that we do each week and we made the time for. And watching the last couple episodes, I was like, because we're going to go back and watch Game of Thrones now because she's really into this. And she loves it because she watches like Virgin River on Netflix and like Sweet Magnolias and all of that
Mhm.
type of soap opera without dragons. And so we're going to go back and watch Game of Thrones. And what I realized is like one of the biggest moments for Game of Thrones of me was when I think it was Drogo came down when Daenerys was surrounded and was going to get killed. And she climbs
Mhm.
on his back and flies away. And that's like the first time. I have never read the book, so I don't know anything. But it was like the first time you even imagined that she could ride a dragon and
Mhm.
escaped. And it was like one of the pinnacle parts of that show for me. And I looked at Jen and I was like, oh, that's not going to mean anything to you because everybody rides dragons, whether you've got white hair or not, you can ride a dragon.
Yeah, it's like this is a show about we have all of these nukes and we're not sure what to do with them. And Game of Thrones is like, we have one of them. Like
Yeah.
we managed to find a nuke in the middle of nowhere. And wait, there's three of them, and only this one lady can control them. This is bananas. Whereas it's like you can just get a dragon from a used car lot if you can sing the right song to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll watch them both next time out,
Yeah,
but
yeah. And you are not caught up on Andor, correct?
I am not. But man, I I really love Mon Mothma's shitty home life. And I really love I love the beach party jam uh at the end of episode 7 where he's like walking on the beach with his money. Like you get a glimpse of what Han Solo intended to do with the money he got from the rebellion at the end of Star Wars before
Right.
like his conscience Chewbacca was like, you better turn around. Uh man, that was amazing. That song, I was just like, this is what it would be like to be on like, you know, MTV Spring Break in Star Wars. Like you'd be listening to this trance music on this beach planet, the Florida of
Mhm.
Star Wars.
The Florida of Star Wars, complete with over aggressive policing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm caught up. I'm fully caught up. And without spoiling anything, I will say that the show is playing the longest of long games um, with its characters. And like every time we think that we've left somebody behind, it finds a way to re-engage with a character, and specifically with the Cyril character, who like we meet in the very first episode. It's like the fastidious young, not even imperial officer, because he's just part of that private company that's running that, Ferrex, I guess. Um, but through his sort of defrocking and his disgracing and all that stuff, as he's finally trying to claw his way back into the good graces of the people in charge, just watching that level of desperation is pretty great. Um, and yeah, like we are inside an imperial. I don't want to call it a prison because it feels more like it's a work camp, even though it's all interior and it all feels like THX 1138 and like an aggressively designed kind of milky white institutional space. But it's so lived in. Every little detail makes sense. Every character is doing a thing for a reason. Um, yeah, and I've spoken to friends, and as I mentioned that you have as well, who do sort of say like, listen, it's very good. It's just not Star Wars. And I don't know what to tell you, man.
I mean, it's as Star Wars as the cantina scene. I mean, I guess the cantina scene has a lightsaber in it, but like, you know, I don't know. I don't think you need fantasy or mysticism for something to be Star Wars. Uh, I'll tell you what. The two things that I really loved is one. I think it was episode 6, where they steal the money. Is
Mhm.
that the idealistic young rebel guy who is like, the heart and soul of what the rebellion stands for? I loved that he got crushed and died by a giant sled full of money. Like, but it's like that little detail that they don't point out in dialogue.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm on the edge of my seat. Like I know, spoilers. Cassian Andor dies 5 minutes before the beginning of Star Wars: A New Hope. And spoilers, the rebellion wins. But I'm
Yeah,
still on the edge of my seat each week watching how they're going to do it and how it's going to get done.
yeah,
Which is wild.
Yeah, I mean, I love that the entire perspective of this show is the good guys are going to make it shitty for everyone because we cannot have a rebellion until the imperial overreach is so excessive and the brutality is so extreme. We need a thing to rebel against, and we're too comfortable. Like if like over time, you can get used to just about everything. And so the entire, the theft at Aldani was not about we need money to fund the rebellion. It's like a lovely side effect, but instead it's we need the empire to crack down on people so that they ruin their fucking lives, so that when we decide to start recruiting, everybody has a reason to pick up a gun and fight. And that is some nihilistic shit right there. But like, yeah, I get it. That's how you fight a bureaucracy.
Something that the argument that I make with people who are like this Andor is not Star Wars because of what it is. I think The Mandalorian is spiritually the thing that is the successor to Return of the Jedi, right? It takes where Return of the Jedi left off and continues down that path. But I think if George Lucas was 25 years old today, Andor is the show that would become what A New Hope is. Meaning, Star Wars has a commentary on coming out of a very historically dark time. After the Kennedy assassination and Vietnam and every movie that was out, like your sci-fi was 2001, your best picture movies were Taxi Driver. Like nothing, there was no hope, and then they make A New Hope. Whereas now, where good guys aren't so cut and dry, we don't really know what's going on, who to trust. Our neighbors are maybe not who we thought they were. I think Andor is honestly the show that a young George Lucas would have made today. So I think Andor is more in line what Star Wars did for society in 1977. I feel like Andor is more in line with that for 2022 than like The Mandalorian giving us Luke Skywalker killing things with a green lightsaber, which I love, but I don't think it has the same relevance beyond I've been waiting to see that for 38 years.
Right. And I do think to your point, it is not, it does not go unnoticed that Star Wars was A, always about a rebellion, and B, always about fascism and tyranny, and C, even before he made his tweaks to it, like Han Solo was killing people. Like Han shot first, you guys. I don't care how many times they try and take that out of my movie. Like that's who that guy was, and it's in great part why we loved him. And so Cassian Andor and Han Solo are not cut from too different a cloth. At the end of the day, just Cassian's life was more difficult going into it, and also you guys, Han Solo used to be like an Imperial pilot. He used to be one of the bad guys. And decided that he found a different path to follow. It was always, I'm not even saying muddy, it was very clear about its perspective and its politics. And it was always, uh, punching up at power, as opposed to punching down at people in need. And so, like, today, that show is incredibly relevant, as it was in 1975 or four, whenever the first idea came into George's head. Um,
I mean,
so yeah, it is spiritually as Star Wars as anything is.
you think, I mean, like, people, like, George Lucas did Star Wars because he didn't want to risk his life to go make Apocalypse Now. I mean, Lucas was set to direct Apocalypse Now and did Star Wars. Like, he was that guy back then. So yeah, I haven't seen episode 8, but I am beyond blown away by the quality of that show. And it's huge. It is
Yeah,
huge. The show looks, every 3 episodes could be a movie. It doesn't feel small. It feels bigger than both House of the Dragon and Rings of Power.
yeah, because it feels like they went to places and shot there. And then designed the fuck out of these spaces so that they have every bit of lived in reality in ways that, yeah, I mean, you can do a lot on a volume. You can do a whole ton with CG, and I'm sure there are a whole mess of CG enhancements going on in Andor, but it feels like you're actually fucking there when they're in the hills of Scotland, you know, pretending to be the bluffs of Aldani. I believe they're in that fucking mud, you know, like when they go to Coruscant, I believe that, you know, we're in the ghettos of Coruscant. Like that's pretty fucking great.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's the Star Wars I've been waiting for my whole life. I feel like it's my adult Star Wars versus Mandalorian is like my, like if you take the nostalgia out of Mandalorian, and I love Mandalorian, so don't like crucify me,
Don't come
internet.
at me, bro.
But and I love the Mandalorian, but like if Luke Skywalker isn't the guy that shows up, if it's some rando, and if that woman doesn't whisper Thrawn to Ahsoka, it's somebody else. Like you just don't care. Like it is all of the weight of that show and all of the anticipation comes from the fact that I grew up watching Bo-Katan and now she's here versus like building. I mean, they do a very good job with Mando, but like everything around that is predicated on nostalgia and the fact that you
Hmm.
grew up and you love this stuff. Where in Andor, it's like I've never seen this part of Coruscant, but like here we are, you know, like
Yeah, I mean,
it's so good.
I think you know, when we first started talking about Mandalorian on the podcast, um, you know, I think if you were to go back and listen to those first episodes, I was a bit crestfallen because it did feel kind of juvenile, you know, and then I came around to, you know, remembering Star Wars is and has always been for children. And so the fact that it feels like it's a bit kid fably, I can't hold it against it, you know. And I did eventually come around to, especially when you introduce like Moff Gideon and stuff. I was like, this first season actually got really strong. Like it ended incredibly well, and it ended in a way that it stood on its own feet. That it earned its drama by the time we got to the end. It wasn't really a nostalgia play yet. Um, it was just other than we like to be in this world and we like to hear laser beams and we like to see a guy in a Mando outfit go off and do some cool shit as the Boba Fett we always wish we got. You know, and then in season two, when it began to engage deeper with its own nostalgia, and then you begin to introduce, you know, these characters that had been, you know, Luke Skywalker and Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano, like all of that stuff. It's like it's cool, but now it's less the Mando show and it's more, you know, Jedi 1.5, you know. And so the more it began to engage in nostalgia in a very real way, the sort of the pleasures got to be somewhat cheap. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do a shot of this cheap liquor that is gonna get me buzzed, as opposed to drink this really good wine that like, holy shit, I didn't even know that I was buzzed, but I'm loving this. Like the gentle but impactful drunk of earning it, as opposed to this has a lot of proof.
Yeah. I don't, and here's the thing, and I've said it maybe on the show weeks ago, but like, I think that had I not gotten the nostalgia bomb that I get from the Favreau Filoni universe, I
Mhm.
probably would be more bitter towards Andor because I'd be like, why are you giving me this when all I want to see is Luke Skywalker with a green lightsaber? You know,
Right.
why aren't you scratching the itch that the sequel trilogy didn't scratch? You have a chance to do it. That's all any of us want to see. But since I got that and I will continue to get that, Andor's wonderful in how different it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a corrective. It's a contrast.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think if there's anything corrective about it, it's, oh, you can make IP based content that is as well wrought and well executed as this. You do not have to suffer quality in any phase of production, simply because it's based on a movie or another TV show or whatever. But I am to your point glad that they both exist, and glad that there is a grown up Star Wars for people who've liked Star Wars since they were kids, in addition to the Star Wars that makes you feel like you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think that's the end of the. We saw some shit and want to talk about it.
Oh, we can touch on Tales of the Jedi real quick too.
Oh, that's right, that's right, that's right.
Tales of the Jedi, which is a thing that I don't think, in a world where the moment somebody has a thought, they announce it with a release date, Tales of the Jedi kind of like creeped up on us. Um, I binge watched it in 2 sittings. I watched 3 and then the back 3. Um, you watched the first 2.
I've seen the first two. I saw the baby Ahsoka episode, and I saw the first of what apparently are three Dooku episodes.
Um, and you and I both, because we talked about it before the show, I think we both felt the same about the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I
Which,
mean, I didn't understand. I didn't understand why we told the Ahsoka story, because it doesn't add anything to her character. You're not exploring anything. It's just here's a kid, and somebody says, "Oh, she's going to be a Jedi," and then that's why a tiger didn't eat her. Um, which it's cute, but beyond the cuteness, I don't know. I don't know what the dramatic initiative was behind it.
yeah, um I watched the show Saturday night and Sunday morning. So it had been out for 5 days or 4 days, and I saw all range of Star Wars fans loved it. 9 out of 10. The people who hate Mandalorian, 9 out of 10. The people who love Last Jedi, 9 out of 10. The people who hate Last Jedi, 9 out of 10. I was like, wow, this has got to be really good. And then I watched the first 2 episodes and I was like, well, baby Ahsoka's cute and like young Dooku's kind of a dick. Uh and then episodes the rest of it does what Dave Filoni does so well, which is if you trace Count Dooku from the moment you see he's rebellious, and you see that his Padawan is Qui-Gon Jinn, and then you see that in episode 1 Qui-Gon Jinn is rebellious, and you get to watch the arrogance of the Jedi radicalize Count Dooku to join forces with Sidious, because he thinks that's the best way to keep the Jedi from, going down the same path. The Count Dooku stories, I think, make episodes 1 and 2 better. And that's something I think Dave Filoni's done a lot with all the animated stuff he's done, is he looks where there may have been shortcomings in things that make sense or stories that we've gotten from George Lucas and added context. I don't want to say retcon because that sounds bad, but he adds context to what's already there, that makes it more enjoyable. Um, what I thought was interesting is the last two episodes are all about Ahsoka, and you haven't seen Clone Wars through.
No.
The end of Clone Wars, Ahsoka essentially becomes Superman at a point and does some absolutely insane stuff. And I think that Dave probably it's fun, but it's a little ridiculous even for a cartoon. I think Dave probably got some flack for that. And you get an episode of this that you think is just it's Anakin training Ahsoka. And you think it's like, oh, this is fun. We're getting Ashley Eckstein and Matt Lanter and T.C. Carson and James Arnold Taylor and all these voice actors. It's like the reunion special. This is a reason to get them all back in the same room. And then at the end, it ends. That episode ends where the like last Ahsoka scene of Clone Wars picks up. And all of a sudden you realize why she's particularly well suited to her Superman like showing in that show. So I loved that Dave has spent, God, since 2007 or 8, adding context to George Lucas' Star Wars. And then with this, he was able to go back and add context to Dave Filoni's Star Wars that he made after George was out. Was pretty cool.
I appreciate that it seems like so much of his Star Wars work, if not the overwhelming majority of it, is like a prequel reclamation project, right? Like he loves them, somewhat unabashedly, and wants all of us to love them as much as he does. And so devoted, however long it's been, like 10 years of his life, to telling stories that fill in the gaps that taken in toto suddenly turn what had been something a little bit ramshackle into this kind of operatic piece that introduces new players and charts rise and falls clear, and rising and falling clear, that finds the drama that was inherent but not explicit and makes it explicit. And then characters that you may or may not have had any real fondness for, he makes them beloved. And then characters that had been, beloved in Clone Wars is then bringing to live action, so now they can stand and take place in the same medium in the canon, the same way that everything else does. Like I appreciate that from a deep nerd perspective. I just haven't gone down the road with him as far as he's gone yet.
It's
I will.
yeah, I guess the rumor, or maybe it's confirmed, is that Dave wrote these on a plane. Like he just had the idea and he sat down and wrote them. And that's also what was super interesting is, Dave Filoni is the head creative guy at Lucasfilm now. Working on Ahsoka, custodian of the live action everything. If you pay attention, he hasn't touched Lucasfilm animation in years. He's kind of the executive producer, but different directors, different writers. He was he was 3 of the first 4 credits. It was executive produced by Dave Filoni, then it was George Lucas, then it was directed by Dave Filoni and something else by Dave Filoni, and then he wrote all of them. So this was definitely like his world and his kind of return to Star Wars animation after kind of handing the reins over to, I think the guy's name's Brad. I don't remember. Brad something. So that was kind of cool to see him kind of go back to his roots there also. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will finish them out. There's once you mentioned, oh, I've seen them all. I completely forgot that they had dropped because I've been in such like Andor mode. And then I was at the Austin Film Festival this past weekend. Not with Splinter. I was just there as a speaker and as a workshop participant, which was lovely. My first time at the Austin Film Festival, which is a very, very deep focus on screenwriting and screenwriters. So it's sort of nice to be part of that little circus for a little bit. But it completely spaced that there was a new space thing that I should have watched, but didn't. But will.
And they also dropped them all at once, which is a very un-Disney Plus thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But thankfully they did, because if they hadn't, I think you would have seen a lot of people just be like, the
Because you're
hell
like,
am I
these guys are like
watching?
18 minutes long.
Yeah. I'll also say it is the prettiest animation and best sound design of it. Could have been, I mean,
Mhm.
they all could have been, it was movie quality stuff, especially the
Yeah.
Ahsoka episode. I was like, I don't know why I'm watching this, but it's really pretty.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's all the stuff that I think between me and Banff Man we have seen in the last bit. I could go deeper again on Interview the Vampire, but I won't. Other than to say it's still very very good. It still might be one of my favorite things on TV. Um, I have one episode to watch. And I'm caught up. I'm on the week of The Walking Dead because after making that my pandemic binge, all 10 seasons of it, I'm going to see it through. I'm a man of my word. I finish things. Yeah. Um, and so yeah, once we get to a finale, I will get to talk about that too. But that means we are done with the catching up chit chat, done with the review portion of stuff we've seen. Now we're going to dip into the news. But before we do that, I am going to talk about getting your dick hard. Yeah, I am. The other sponsor for this evening's episode of Black Man Beyond are the good folks at BlueChew, who deliver unto me my favorite ad copy to read. So the nights are getting longer, but the breeze isn't the only thing that's getting stiff. That's right, this episode is sponsored by BlueChew. Guys, we all know that confidence can take you far in life. That's especially true in the bedroom, especially when it's time to step up to the plate, and that's where BlueChew comes in. BlueChew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part is it's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. So, if you could benefit from a little extra confidence when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. Have better sex with BlueChew. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try BlueChew free when you use our promo code FATMAN at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code FATMAN to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And as always, we thank BlueChew for sponsoring this podcast. So, some news. Let's see. Since there's not another dude to debate this with, this is not going to take an overwhelmingly long time. So we're just going to kind of batter through some stuff and talk about them as we see fit. So, first, there is from executive producer and writer Brian Fuller a new Friday the 13th prequel series coming. After years of speculation, the Friday the 13th franchise is finally back on its feet, thanks to the good folks behind Hannibal and also American Gods. Um, Peacock has officially greenlit Crystal Lake, a prequel series based on the franchise to be written and executive produced by Brian Fuller. While exact plot details are being kept under wraps, this will mark the first Friday the 13th project since a lawsuit between director Sean Cunningham and screenwriter Victor Miller was seemingly settled last year. It's coming from the folks at A24 who know their way around horror. And according to Fuller, I discovered Friday the 13th in the pages of Famous Monsters magazine when I was 10 years old and have been thinking about this story ever since. When it comes to horror, A24 raises the bar and pushes the envelope, and I'm thrilled to be exploring the campgrounds of Crystal Lake under their banner. I am, if you've been to my Twitter page, You can see that my Halloween name was Marc Bernardin because I'm a horror but I have seen Friday the 13th. And so getting to talk about um, what led up to the events that shut down Camp Crystal Lake to begin with seems like a smart way to go. And Brian Fuller is a dude who knows his way around things that go bump in the night. So I'm curious. I'll give it a go. We'll see what's what. In other news, the great and powerful and awe-inspiring Yahya Abdul-Mateen II is taking on Disney's Wonder Man. Coming off some of the best reviews of his career for his work in Broadway's revival of the Pulitzer Prize-winning play Top Dog Underdog, Yahya is preparing to move from DC to Marvel as the lead for the studio's Wonder Man TV show. Let's see, the live action series was first announced back in June with Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed Shang-Chi, and Hawkeye co-producer Andrew Guest announcing their involvement. Cretton will direct and executive produce with Guest serving as the head writer. It will also feature the return of Ben Kingsley's Trevor Slattery, the supervillain turned good guy, or not so good guy, who has been first seen as the Mandarin, but totally not the Mandarin, who was in both Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi. And Yahya Abdul-Mateen was in most recently, of course, The Watchmen. He was playing Morpheus in The Matrix Resurrections. He will be once again back as Black Manta in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which will be out on December 25th, 2023. You know, I dig it. He like right next to Jonathan Majors is one of the more exciting young actors to kind of make a splash the last 10 years or so. And I'll watch whatever this dude does because he's good in everything. He was even good in The Matrix, and that movie's awful. And it's not his fault. So yeah, man, I'm here for it. I'm here for the charisma because Wonder Man requires charisma. Um, so yeah, man, down to clown with it. Speaking of clowns, not a great segue, but they've cast Sophia Falcone in the Penguin show that Matt Reeves is making his spin-off TV series from the Batman. Colin Farrell is again playing the Penguin, and now Kristen Milioti is playing Sophia Falcone. She's the daughter of Carmine Falcone, of course, who's played by John Turturro in the movie, and she is in this series will be battling with the Penguin over control of Gotham City. Yeah, casting stuff, always cool. I like her as an actress. She was very funny in Palm Springs. And funny is not all that she was, but it was a pretty great performance in that Adam, not Adam. Where did I get Adam from? Adam, going with my brain. I want to say Adam Sandler, but that's wrong. No. Andy Samberg. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Adam Sandler, Andy Samberg. I mean, I'm not that far off, right? But anyway, she's very good in Palm Springs. I quite like that. So yeah, I'll tune in. We'll see what's what. As castings always feel like the beginning of a project, sadly, every now and again we have to announce the end of one. And Stargirl's light is fading. The DC CW show, currently in the middle of its third season, which will be its last season. It created by Jeff Johns, stars Brett Bassinger, previous guest on this podcast when the first season was premiering, as high school student Courtney Whitmore, who began as a character that Jeffrey Johns created back in 1999, inspired by his sister, who died tragically in a 1996 plane crash. The cancellation of Stargirl, I don't think reflects in any way the quality of the show as much as it reflects that the CW has been sold to a batch of new owners, Next Star Media Group, which has been canceling quite a few things. Riverdale is coming to the end of its run, as is The Flash and Nancy Drew. It seems as if maybe that this is not superheroic storytelling is not what they want on the CW any longer. But take some solace that the writing staff was all told relatively early that this season would be the last, so they were able to fashion an ending for the series that will make some sense. Um, and I think the final episode will be coming in early December. So if you were a fan, I'm sorry to hopefully not bring bad news to you. I hope that you've discovered it before now, but at the very least, you will get an ending that feels like an ending, as opposed to a we just stopped here. That's weird. We've all watched those shows that just got canceled far earlier than they should have, and they, which is the last episode of the last episode. Um, Speaking of castings and endings, now we got a twofer. On the heels of Henry Cavill, sort of unveiling his initiative and his desire to return as the Man of Steel in DC movies, and perhaps in conjunction with the announcement that Guy Ritchie is making a film called The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare about spies during World War II, of which Cavill will be playing the lead. He is stepping away from The Witcher. Um, the fourth season will find Geralt of Rivia being played by Liam Hemsworth. Um, you will get one more season with Cavill, um, which which will return next summer. And then there's also a prequel, The Witcher Blood Origin, which launches this on Christmas, in fact, this year. Um, but yeah, there's a lovely little statement. You know, my journey is Geralt. I'm gonna say Geralt. Maybe I don't know. I may have watched the show, but I just don't remember. Has been filled with both monster and adventure, and alas, I will be laying down my medallion and my swords for season 4. In my stead, the fantastic Mr. Liam Hemsworth will be taking up the mantle of the White Wolf. As with the greatest of literary characters, I pass the torch with reverence for the time spent embodying Gerald, and enthusiasm to see Liam's take on this most fascinating and nuanced of men. Liam, good sir, his character has such a wonderful depth to him. Enjoy diving in and seeing what you can find. Um, According to sources, Cavill had made a short-term deal for The Witcher, and he just felt like it was time to move on after 3 seasons on the show, which films overseas and has a pretty demanding production schedule. Um, so I don't know if it doesn't sound like there's any animosity going on there, but just, yeah, you're going to have to get used to a new guy, grunting his way through a fantasy landscape and stabbing everything in sight.
Bamf.
Uh, ooh, he's
Real
back.
quick, real quick. I saw a Photoshop of Liam Hemsworth face on the Witcher, Henry Cavill's Witcher character, and it looked wonderful. So I don't watch the show, but I don't think you're going to get tripped up by like, well, he looks so different now. Anyway, that's all I
Yeah,
have to say on that.
you put a wig and some stubble on a guy, and you spend an ungodly amount of time in the gym. You can probably make that work. Um, in other news, and our final news item of the day, um, there is a Vision TV series in the works for Marvel TV. This second WandaVision spinoff will focus on Paul Bettany's character, titled Vision Quest, which is opening a writer's room this week, I believe, is about Vision trying to regain his memory and humanity, allegedly. And while the focus is on Vision, of course, there's the possibility that Wanda Maximoff will appear, um, given how closely connected those two characters are. It's being overseen by the WandaVision creator, writer, and executive producer, Jack Schaefer, who's also overseeing Agatha, um, Coven of something or other, House of Harkness, whatever they're calling that show. Um, so yeah, I mean, listen, I love Paul Bettany as that character. I think that there's always potential in a story about a robot wanting to be a real boy. And it seems as if the ongoing Vision project is somewhat Pinocchio-ish, which feels pretty good, especially given that Marvel is so much about the humanity of their characters. So what better than to have a character who's not human on his quest to become so? Um, and uh, and while I didn't love the entirety of WandaVision, I mean, we spoke about it on the pod. We even talked about it with the director Matt Shackman when he popped on after the finale of that first season. Um, I do think that the White Vision stuff the ship of Theseus argument, all of that was a fascinating beat in that finale. And so, if this is going to be more philosophical musings of a white android, um, here for it, happy for it. Um, so there you have it, boys and girls.
Bam.
Hey,
Do you think so? I probably shouldn't say this. When we had Shackman on the show, he texted me to like coordinate. So I have his cell phone number. Should I text him in like 2 years and see if he'll do Fantastic Four with us?
absolutely, we should.
He'll be like, "Who is this?" I'll be like, "Please."
Come on, Batman. Let's talk about Fantastic Four.
All
Remember,
right.
we had fun.
You liked us. You liked us.
You didn't
We
think
didn't
we were
talk about.
assholes.
Yeah. So I'll try it. Once Fantastic Four wraps, I'll go direct.
Why the hell not? Or you could be the asshole who does it every week from now until then. Like, hey man, how's it going? I had scrambled eggs this morning. How about you? Don't forget us.
You want to
Little
just give
weird
us a
life
product?
update.
How'd page 7 and 8 go of the script writing today? Good.
Yeah, yeah. So still four people, right? Still, you're not adding a fifth? No? Okay, just making sure. Okay, bye.
So yeah, all right, we'll try that.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, before we run away, man, do we have any Q&A today, or are we done with the podcast?
We got a couple questions that I pulled when I'm talking, which I did more than I ever have on this show. I can't I can't do two things at once anymore. So
No, it's gone.
I missed a lot of the chat. I can't do two things at once. It's gone. But I did pull a couple questions. First
Excellent.
one from Braden Gosi, who we've gotten some other questions from. He said, if you could serve in any role in Starfleet, what would it be?
Any role in Starfleet? Ooh. Um, I mean, like that's the weirdest part about Starfleet. The weirdest part about life in the Federation is that, and I remember talking about this over the weekend with a fellow named Bo DeMaio or DeMaio, I think he's DeMaio, who was a writer on Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. And so we for some reason got talking about the Federation and Starfleet and how none of it really makes sense from how you can keep a civilization going. They're like, oh yeah, there's no money. Like, but I don't understand how. Wait, what? Everybody can do whatever they want to do, but what happens when you need people to do things that they don't want to do? Like, not everybody wants to take out the garbage. Not everybody wants to work in the sewers of Utopia Planitia shipyards. Somebody has to. And so, how do you incentivize them to do that if you don't pay them money? Because it's also not somebody's greatest life's dream. Like, I get if your dream is to be the captain of a starship, but nobody wants to like scrub the inside of a giant toilet bowl. Um, so, without money, how does that happen? We couldn't crack it. But
Oh yeah.
Starfleet, I guess, is different from the Federation because Starfleet is like you join the Navy, right? So, like, what's your job going to be in the Navy? Are you going to be an enlisted person? Are you going to want to be an officer? Do you want to go in navigation or command or engineering or counseling? Um, or do you want to be like a civilian contractor who just comes in and works on the ships and the buildings and then goes back to your life? I feel like um, I'm not a military person by nature. And so the desire to go to an academy and the desire to do all of that training and all of that stuff doesn't excite me so much. Um, but I think I'd want to be a historian.
Mm.
Like I think I'd want to be the chronicler of the adventures that Starfleet goes on. I think I'd want to be the guy who's um, doing the research and discovering the stories that nobody's heard of all of these civilizations that we've made first contact with, that we've invited into the Federation. Um, And it seems like there might be a place for that person on every starship, right? Like you're going to go into the middle of nowhere, into the great wide open, and encounter strange new worlds and strange new civilizations. um, Somebody should be there to tell their stories. Somebody should be there to write down their legends. Somebody should be there to absorb the emotional data that comes with legends. And I think that might be an interesting job. I think that might be a fulfilling job as a person who does not want to, um, you know, launch a phaser fusillade against a bad guy's ship as much as like, can I just hang out in the bar and like interview people about their lives and like Gunn will bring me over some delicious actual alcohol and we can just tell stories around a roaring fire. That sounds great.
That
So yeah.
yeah, that sounds awesome. I think I'd want to be one of those guys that sits like the judges that judges everybody because I don't like people telling me what to do. It doesn't seem like anybody can tell those people what to do.
No. Yeah, you want to be on like the high tribunal or something.
I'm just like not
Uh,
real successful with longevity in working for other people. So I feel like if I was a Starfleet captain and there was an admiral and the admiral's always poking me to go left when I want to go right, it wouldn't end well. Not for
no,
me, not
no.
for him, not for Starfleet.
It's like, goddamn Reichenberg, where is he now?
Um, all right.
That was a good question.
Hobbies for hire. What's one character you would like to see debut in live action in Andor? After we just got done talking for an hour about how happy we are there's no nostalgia in Andor, who's one
Yeah.
character you'd like to see?
I mean, it's tough because so much of my Star Wars is not based in and around the animated stuff. Like as I've said more than once, including today, like I've seen, some of the first two seasons of Clone Wars. I probably watched the first 4 or 5 episodes of Rebels, but because I wasn't a Clone Wars kid, it didn't quite sink in the same way.
First
Um,
first 5 episodes of Rebels don't sink in the same way no matter what.
no matter
That's
what you do,
that's a
then
fight to get to the end of that first season. Then it gets really good.
yeah. Um, but I think I think as you scale up the way that show works, and it seems as if we are never really going to be about encountering Jedi. Um, and I don't necessarily want to. But I think that there is some version of as the ISB begins to feed up to the empire at large, as it becomes to feed up to, you start to climb these ladders. Um, I mean, maybe there is a Lieutenant Commander Thrawn that you can meet who is yet not yet ascended to like Vice Admiral or whatever he is. Like everybody's got to start somewhere. And where does that guy start? And hell, for all I know, Cyril, who is this character in Andor, like I don't know where Thrawn gets his blue skin from. I don't know if that's a space accident. It's probably not a space accident, but I'll say it anyway. um,
He's like a mood ring. When he's sad, he
yeah,
turns blue. When he's mad, he turns red.
maybe
That'd
he
be
just
a
eats
good
too many.
alien species.
See, he can always tell what the tenor of the room is. Um, or maybe he just eats too many blueberries, space blueberries, and then he turns blue, like Willy Wonka.
I
Thrawn is my pick. Thrawn is my pick.
There's a character that has kind of existed in books and legends and everywhere for a very long time. And he was in the deleted scenes of Return of the Jedi, I believe.
Mm.
Um, and he's never been, as far as I know, I don't think he's ever been animated or live action, at least not with any speaking lines. And it's
Mhm.
somebody named General Kraken, and he is
Ooh.
supposed to be like he's like the head of rebel intelligence. He's like always the sharpest guy in the room. He's the guy who knows what's going on. He's kind of like the guy. I always pictured him a lot like Stellan or the Skarsgård. Is it Stellan
Hmm.
in Andor? His character, the way he looks and holds himself, or in Andor or in Rogue One, the guy who like calls out Jyn Erso, and he's like, Liana Holic, or should I call you Jyn Erso? Like that guy is kind of like General Kraken as he's portrayed, but like I'd like him, that actual character, to show up in the show, and I think he'd slide in really well as like the rebel intelligence boss who's not afraid to put some bodies behind him.
That's cool. That's cool. No, I'd be there for that. I'd be there for that. I
There's
guess
like
that's
5 people who know what I'm talking about, but they're very excited.
yeah, yeah. It is the side effect of my lack of engagement with the extended universe, the expanded universe of Star Wars lore, is that I come pretty much right from the. I'm on the main vein, not in any tributaries. All right, but that was a good one. That was a good one. We got a good one to bring us home.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be difficult, but we'll try it.
Okay.
Digital Puppets asks, if you and Mark could rewrite the ending of any film, which film would you pick, and how would you rewrite it?
If I could rewrite the ending of any movie
I'll go.
that I
I
thought,
know what I would do.
okay, shoot.
I'm not sure exactly what I would do, but I would rewrite the ending to the first Wonder Woman movie. And I think I would have it end. I'd probably just take like the last 20 minutes off because I thought that movie was so fantastic and bright and hopeful, and the antithesis to the giant uh, amber and gray dark cloud that is everything from that era of DC. Right up until Ares shows up, and then it's a void of them on a tarmac with black and amber clouds all around them, throwing giant tanks at each other in a fight that just doesn't matter. I think I would have it end with her and Steve Trevor. I'd have it end like right around that part of the show. I don't think we even need to see Ares. I think the ending of that show is Wonder Woman realizes that she has her moment there before she needs to destroy Ares in a weird cloud of smoke. Or I would have her win by not fighting physically. That she
Right.
uses the things that she learned from the humans or the people on Earth to defeat Ares in a smarter way, not a punchy way.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. I think I go. I think I'd like to take another whack at the ending of Thor: Love and Thunder. Um, I think that the movie it wants to have it both ways, specifically with Gore the God Butcher, who does not butcher nearly enough gods to be Gore the God Butcher. Um, but they want us to take him legit seriously as a threat, and as a villain. But it also does kind of bend over backwards to give him the somewhat redeeming finale, where like the bad guy gets his wish to come true. and your good guys don't. Um, and it's not that I have a problem with Jane Foster, spoiler alert, um, dying from the cancer that she's been avoiding for that long. But if everybody's going to make it to the place where wishes can come true, um, I would almost rather it be that like Jane does have a wish that she wants to come true, but it has nothing to do with her living any longer. Um, I think that there's some version of wanting Thor. I don't know. It's also not a movie that feels like it's about him learning to take responsibility for anybody else. Um, so I just, if you're going to do that kind of ending, then I think that everybody who crosses that Rubicon should get a thing to come true for them. And for Thor's big lesson is to have to raise Gore's daughter as his own. It just didn't seem to remind me of very much of anything. It didn't seem to harmonize with very much of anything. But if it was, you have to raise Heimdall's son as your own, because Heimdall was your best friend who died sending you away so that you can then survive and go and kill Thanos. And this kid has been left an orphan, and you haven't been able to engage with it because you've been off gallivanting around the universe doing fucking Thor shit. And then he gets kidnapped by the bad guy because you were not on your watch doing what you should have been doing. And if Jane's dying wish is for him to learn to be that person that he needs to be, to have seen in that child what he also saw in his father. I mean, I'm spinning it now only because you asked for that question, so that's the answer. But I was kind of emotionally unfulfilled by the ending of that film. And I think that there's a version of it that does get you more emotion, and you would have had to sort of treat that cancer, with a little bit more gravity and weight. Um, but but yeah, I think just another whack at the way that movie resolves, where I don't need to feel pathos for the bad guy. Like we're gonna kill the bad guy because that's what we do to bad guys. Um, Especially if it was not a bad guy we have any connection to a relationship with. You know, if you told me that like Sif had become the bad guy, which I don't know what that would be, but sure, then yeah, it's a redemption story. It's a can we pull her back from the brink because she used to be our best friend, and now she's gone to the dark side. But just some rando dude, like I don't need to see him redeemed. I just need to see you save the day, Thor. Um, so that is my off the cuff pick, with a fudgy um, pitch for a solution to my issues with it. But yeah, I mean the Wonder Woman was a good one. Um, I'm sure that there's some version of a Matrix movie, specifically like the third one,
Oh yeah.
that could have been, you know, I don't even know what the pitch is. Just maybe not have people sitting in a spaceship going blind, traveling into the void, only to have another fist fight by the end. Um, yeah, I don't know. Just that one also. The bigger it got, the less impactful it felt. Um, to the point where, hey, you know what? Maybe we just pretend that Matrix 2, 3, and 4 did never happen. And they made one great movie. That's how it ended. We just took off the other 300 minutes of content.
And you can dabble in the animatrix if you want.
Yes, absolutely. We can have little bits and pieces, but we didn't need all of that.
I think that's the show. Are
I
we
think
done?
that's a show, man. That's a show.
Did
Look
we
at
do
us.
it in 90 minutes? We're putting in
90
half the
minutes.
effort. Um, well, I'll push.
Well,
Before you say goodbye, I've got a couple things I'm going to peddle.
please,
Uh,
by all means.
First, I'll be hosting trivia tomorrow night, so I will not be at your engagement, unfortunately.
Such
Uh,
things happen.
but I have to be an adult and a business owner. So, uh, if anybody's in LA and wants to do nerd trivia tomorrow night, and then Saturday, for the first time ever, Scum and Villainy is going to open at 11 a.m. on Saturdays and do lunch. So you can day drink on Saturday and continue through the evening.
Amazing.
So,
Oh, I love it.
And then I'm wearing this because we may do Scum and Villainy hockey jerseys. I'm
We know a guy.
I'm toying. So the guy who makes all Kevin's jerseys drinks at Scum, and he and I got to talking the other day, and he gave me this Grimlock jersey that I thought was
That's
cool.
cool.
And so maybe we do a limited run Scum and Villainy jersey if people would buy it. You know, if we sold
you
a
they would.
1,000 Jeff's Kiss shirts, I feel like we could do a couple hundred Scum and Villainy jerseys.
Fuck yeah, you can.
So
Um,
anyway, that's it for me.
awesome. That's it for you. Let me plug a couple of things, I suppose. Um, I have the ongoing, well, it's not this, but it's an ongoing concern for the next couple of months. Census, comic book that I wrote with my buddy Adam Freeman and was drawn and colored by Sebastian Pidiz, is coming out monthly for the next, well, issues 1 and 2 are out. Issue 3 should be out in a couple of weeks. On Comixology Originals, and then it'll be in print in Dark Horse next year. But pick it up. It's a bit of a horror comedy, and I think it's fun. At least we had fun writing it. So yeah, that is still sort of bubbling around there. And in a couple of weeks, I will be in the United Kingdom for the Thought Bubble Festival in Harrogate. It's a comic book convention, and I'm going all the way across the pond to attend. I understand that it's a bit outside of London, a bit of a drive, or a train, or a boat, helicopter, hovercraft. But for people who have been asking, when am I going to come across the Atlantic to come say hi? I'm doing so. I will be there. Pretty sure it's the 11th I arrive. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday in a couple of weeks. So if you're in town and are down to clown, let's hang out. And now we'll see you at a comic book convention. And I think that is it for me. Which means that is it for this episode of Black Man Beyond. We will be back, I think, hopefully with Kevin, for a Fat Man update, maybe in the next couple of weeks. I know that he is, between me going to the UK and him continuing the convenience tour, finding the time to be on the Zooms together is harder than it's been in a while. But I hope we will be able to work it out relatively soon. But until then, until the next time I figure out how to do a Black Man by myself, maybe it'll be a review episode of Wakanda Forever, either with me by myself, me and Kev, or me and some other guest who agrees to come into the chamber. Until then, thank you for taking some time out of your afternoon. We will be back, same black time, same black channel. I have been Marc Bernardin, and always happy to see you guys. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you when we see you. Smodcast.com or youtube.com/Kevin Smith. Peace, love, and soul.
This is the cat. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the AKA Ask Kev Anything. Every saga has a 10-year anniversary, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what happens when Jay and Silent Bob get old. I'm Kevin Smith. Cheers,